So if you're new here, you should know that this channel is under a shadow ban. The people who run this platform are purposely blocking my numbers. So I need you to like, subscribe, and share to combat this. Thank you in advance.
You have been listening to Mayor Brandon Johnson and Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx speaking about the police-involved shooting that killed 26-year-old Dexter Reed. We have been following this breaking news all morning. The body cam video was just released this morning showing the deadly shooting during a traffic stop by Chicago police on March 21st of this year. Let's get right to CBS 2's Chris Ty, who's in the newsroom. He's been combing through the footage. Chris?
Yeah, Jim, for the last 25 minutes, we've been listening to State's Attorney Kim Foxx, the head of COPA, the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, and Mayor Johnson talking about this incident from 19 days ago that led to the death of Dexter Reed over in Garfield Park. I want to play for you a moment of what happened in the seconds before the fatal shooting, which, as you watch this, think about two things. Number one, the purported reason for this police pullover was because of a seatbelt violation. It was 5 ununiformed officers from a tactical unit over in the 11th District who they say he fired first. That will be the central question moving forward. Did he fire first, and why was that group of 5 uniformed officers swarming on a vehicle in the middle of the day? Let's watch it and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Roll the window down. What are you doing?
Roll this one down.
Roll that one down too. Hey, don't roll the window up. Don't roll the window up.
Okay.
Do not roll the window up. Unlock the doors now. Unlock the doors now. Unlock the doors now. Open the door now. Open the door now. Open the door now. Officer School David, shots fired, shots fired.
Shots were indeed fired, 96 of them over the course of just 41 seconds. The head of the Civilian Office of Police Accountability said central to their investigation moving forward is to examine the propriety of that traffic stop. Again, the reason given is that it was an individual, Mr. Reed, not wearing a seatbelt. That is the video from the body-worn camera of the officer. Let's move to a camera angle from across the street, which shows this from a different angle. Again, the central question is who fired first. COPA says it was Mr. Reed. We are going to hear from Mr. Reed's family on that matter coming up at noontime today. They're holding a press conference. The state's attorney says by the end of this week, her office hopes to interview the officers involved. One of those 5 officers critically involved in all of this remains hospitalized. Mayor Johnson saying if not for the grace of God, that officer could have been killed if that bullet struck just a few inches away. Let's listen to the head of COPA from just moments ago.
Upon stopping Mr. Reed's vehicle, officers surrounded his car and began giving him verbal commands. The situation escalated when Mr. Reed did not comply with those commands, and multiple officers pointed their guns at him while continuing to shout commands. Within less than a minute, an exchange of gunfire occurred, leaving Mr. Reed dead and an officer shot in the forearm.
So there are 2 big questions here. There's a lot of questions, Jim, but the 2 big ones are, number one, did he fire first, and why did the officers show up there in the first place? It is curious, certainly, that 5 ununiformed officers come to a seatbelt violation. The other big question from Kim Foxx's perspective, she, of course, the Cook County State's Attorney, is was the use of force here reasonable? COPA seems to indicate here in the early innings of this that it was reasonable, but there's a whole host of questions and interviews that need to be done to kind of button that up. We're going to have much more. This story is going to be evolving throughout the day. Again, we're going to be hearing from Mr. Reed's family at noon. Questions are going to be asked of the COPA director later this afternoon. And of course, the questions will be focused on what those officers did, why they were there, and whether or not the use of force was justified. So, Jim, that's where we sit here on a story that's just kind of evolving here 19 days after the death of Dexter Reed.
Chris Ty in the newsroom, thanks so much. You'll be working the story all day. Our team coverage of this breaking news continues now with Sarah Maki at the Civilian Office of Police Accountability. Sarah.
Yeah, we're expecting to hear from the family of 26-year-old Dexter Reed in just under an hour. As Chris was saying, they have previously hired a lawyer who called this shooting unjustified. That attorney and family members will be out here. But even before that video was released, in a letter from that attorney to Mayor Brandon Johnson, Reed's family spoke of his basketball career with Morton College and Cicero. They talked about how Reed was the middle of 3 siblings, that he was known to his friends, his family, and his coaches as Dex, humanizing the man that is now at the center of this. They talked about his aspirations to become a sports broadcaster and his interests, saying that his favorite musician was Jay-Z, that he loved food and healthy food. Now, this shooting has been getting the attention of the neighbors in this area since it happened. One of the people who lived around there getting some video online. It did not show what happened leading up to the shots, but it did catch the sound of dozens of gunshots. And even before the video's release, community members were planning several events reacting to this unseen video. Just an hour ago, Westside faith leaders calling for an independent investigation at Columbus Park Refectory. Here's what they had to say.
So much is unknown. There's so many questions. Why the traffic stop? How did the traffic stop lead from a traffic stop to a full shooting, a loss of life? How is it?
There is at least one other rally planned for today, that one happening this afternoon at this CPD 11th District headquarters. Again, we will be here in the next hour as we hope to hear from Reed's family and from his attorney, continuing our coverage on this developing situation. Live at Copa, Sarah Maki, CBS 2 News.
Sarah, thanks so much.
Today, Mayor Brandon Johnson called the body camera video deeply disturbing.
It weighs heavily on me that this event took place just blocks away from my own community. And it is not lost on me that both Dexter Reed and this officer could have been my students.
The mayor taught at Westinghouse College Prep, the same high school Dexter Reed graduated from.
Our Sabrina Franza continues our coverage now. Sabrina, you spoke to Reed's family today.
We did, and that was just after saying their final goodbyes to Dexter Reed on Friday. They were finally able to watch that video you just saw yesterday showing his death. They're now calling for police reform and for accountability.
I just miss my son. I'm hurt. I'm sick. I feel like I've been shot.
Hold this one down. Hold that one down too.
Dexter Reed's mother, after listening to 96 shots fired in 41 seconds, killing her son.
My insides is burning up. Why they did that to my son?
Dexter Reed was 26 years old. He played basketball at Westinghouse College Prep before later playing for Morton College. His dream was to one day be a broadcaster. His mom said he had just bought the car he was driving in when police pulled him over.
He had just bought his new car 3 days before that, and he was just riding around in his car. He said, "Mom, I'm going for a ride."
Now his family is calling for the city to disband their tactical units working on the city's south and west sides.
Why were tactical officers jumping out of an unmarked police car with their guns drawn for a simple traffic violation of not wearing your seatbelt?
They want the Chicago Police Department to strip the 5 officers involved of their jobs. And they say they feel a criminal indictment against some of the officers is also warranted.
It must stop. It ain't the first person it happened to. And if it don't be justice, if they not held accountable, it won't be the last person.
Dexter Reed's family did not comment on how a Chicago police officer was also shot and wounded that day. They maintain that Reed was unarmed when he got out of the car as police shot him. In the newsroom, Sabrina Franza, CBS 2 News.
Sabrina, thank you.